Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. Gemini Brett here. It is 11:11 a.m. on Wednesday, Miércoles, Mercury's Day, which means it's time for StarryTelling Hour. Um, if you are on my mailing list, you will know I did not send an email this week. First of all, weekly emails is something I thought I would never do in my life. But it's been happening recently. It's been fun to just check in with the visible stars, the visible planets, kind of encouraging people to get outside, connect, see what they can see. I hope you've seen Venus. Venus is becoming more and more visible as an evening star now. As for me, where I reside in California, it's like Mercury, even though further from the sun, seemingly disappearing. I went out yesterday morning and saw Mars, and with my zoom lens, took a picture of Mars with Uranus and the two of them with the Pleiades. Our daughter Maya was named for one of those Pleiadian stars, and maybe that's one of the reasons why she was feeling a lot of Uranus and Mars. So she's been a bit unsettled the last few nights, as babies will, right? So it's been tricky and less sleep and all that around here. So doing what I can, probably be a bit of a shorter session today. I also want to respond to this weekend's events in Pennsylvania and this assassination attempt. Or ... But anyway, I put a video up on Sunday, so you can look at that if you'd like to. It was called "When Will We Know Peace?" And that topic was not only stimulated by the events of that day, or about the terrible wars that are happening all over the world. I mean, at least at this time, more people are conscious of them than typical from what I've seen. But because on Saturday, on July 13th, the moon occulted Spica, and that was visible in Butler, Pennsylvania. That was visible in Washington, D.C. Was visible in Queens, New York. And I found that to be very interesting, and you can watch that video. But I just want to say a thing or two that I felt like, besides kind of the obvious Mars Uranus, right? Let's use this kind of difficult language of war and shock, and with Algol, and use the really difficult language like the demon star. And it was all at Trump's midheaven. It's opposite Biden's sun, by the way. It's pretty interesting, different images of quote unquote beheadings, which is what that star is known for. I was really interested in seeing this occultation of Spica, which is the shaft of wheat that the priestess of the heavens holds, and feel into, especially in the mysteries of that priestess that are associated with Astarte, who is said to be the last of the guides and guidesses, as I like to call the gods and goddesses, who left like at a time when human lost reverence and turned our back on spirit, and they just split. And we're like, you guys are on your own then. But Astarte, it said, was the last one to leave, because she really kept the faith, and that she's the one that's closest to us, and will be the first to return when we are ready. So what I feel I didn't get into enough in that video is, well, what does it mean to be ready? So one of the things in that teaching would be, it's when we find reverence again. Given that in our day and age, the priestess is now aligned with Libra space, it will be when we find consideration again. If that's to happen in our day and age, and I sure hope it does. How to look through the other's eyes. Are we willing to ask somebody where they're coming from instead of trying to bring them to the light, to learn to see the light in them? I spoke in Saturday's or Sunday's jam about that star Spica also being the shaft of wheat that it said was given to us to receive agriculture, and talked a bit about the Persephone story, and how in some very strange turn of events in that great starry story, it was Triptolemus who told Demeter where to find Persephone, or where Persephone would be found. And for this, she gave him the gift of agriculture. So in that sense, I find that star to also be linked to the Persephone mysteries. And the reminder that this weird hell on earth and heaven on earth is part of the design for the growth of the soul, because it's really hard not to just shut it down and wish, for example, that I hadn't brought a daughter into this terrible world. When I turn on the news, what's important is that I like tune into amazing beings like you and you and you and you and connect. And I'm very blessed to have a job where I get to speak every day to really amazing and interesting people who are on their intentional growth. A thing I meant to say on Sunday that I didn't get to, which was that I learned through my inability to spell the word that assassination is nation. And I was intrigued by that because it's kind of like there's, I guess they call them what, donkey and elephant instead of two donkeys. But like, the Coke team and the Pepsi team to me, and this idea of being so like loyal to your tribe, which I hear in nation. And I'd love to learn more about the etymology of that word. So it's kind of like when I choose this ass or that one, that's my nation, right? Then we can get into some really tricky spaces where instead of looking at reality and also looking at our neighbor as our like brother or sister, we start seeing them as an enemy, and we fall for these programs. And I think that's really alive right now. And so the last thing I'll say about current events, I guess, is that we are currently in a Cancer lunation. It began with a new moon at the Sirius degree. And I actually thought I was going to speak about that this week. I think it will be next week that I spend some time with, the idea of the dog days of summer and the astronomical, it's hard to call it foundations, but of the 8-8 Lionsgate trip that's become so popular for New Age. And to see if there's anything to that from a sacred astronomical point of view. And I was thinking about exploring that today, but looking at this truth of Spica's projection, one of these really powerful stars, a star that's of the 15s, known as the Bohemian stars, the magical stars of Hermes at the time of like Renaissance magic, and Sirius being another one of those. It really kind of brought me into this cycle. And looking at Libra moon on Saturday, July 13th, squaring the Cancer sun, the opening quarter, the waxing half moon, moon sun square, just to really feel into that relationship of Cancer is such a beautiful thing, especially when we are giving and receiving nurturing, and when we can water the plants to help them grow, when we can, comfort and see the baby or the adult so that they can feel safe and can sleep and rest and be, revived by the dreams of the night and all of these things. So like, I'm not in any way suggesting Cancer is bad, but it can lead to occultism. What gang are you in, right? And then that can be very difficult for us to, from that space, allow ourselves to Libra. Mani, I'm seeing you say Tashi Dalik, everyone. I would love a translation of that. So it's like that, right? Like if we're speaking different languages, it's hard to share. And that can kind of be, I know we don't associate Cancer typically with like a language. But what I'm saying is like the soil from which you sprout, whether it had all the nutrients that you wished for and none of ours did, or was completely contaminated, it has so much to do with who you are. And sometimes when we're not connected to how real that is, we lose ourselves to the program. Or no, we don't lose ourselves. We lose our ability to see another because we are only looking through the eyes of our culture. Mani says, this is Tibetan for welcome. Hello, blessings. Awesome. Well, Melinda is sharing that she has a Spica or Spica splint on her hand for her thumb because of an accident she had last month. Sorry to hear about that, Melinda. But love finding out it's called a Spica splint. I would love to know why. And I bet you, Melinda, you've looked deep into that because I know how deeply you go into pursuing the mysteries of language and number and the like. Okay, so speaking of the mysteries of number, let's roll the dice. So that is what I felt I could maybe best offer for our time together today, is to explore the relationship of the signs. Because it's very important to kind of understand when you're looking at the Libra Cancer dynamic that they are square, and that squares offer a tension. Okay, and this is going to help us get into some hidden things to find some new light together in community, which might just be in the chart design for today's StarryTelling Hour, July 17th, 2024. Happy birthday, Whitney. 11:11 a.m. Pacific time. I'm here in Richmond, California, and at the time we find these late degrees of tropical Virgo on the rise, and I'm going to today play this way. We're going to go to a whole sign framework, and if we do, we will find that this 11th house steersman of this chart, we say that when Virgo's rising, the rudder is Virgo, and therefore Mercury, since that is Mercury's world, is the steersman of the chart. I just wanted, before I push this button, honor that Neptune is setting. I was born with that, and we want to get into mystical space and the way that we relate and explore the mysticism of relationships. So that works for me. I'm seeing lots of interesting connections there. But of course, it's nice to see these lights in the 11th of community. That's going to change to the big light as soon as I hit this whole sign houses button, because now we see that Leo is the 12th sign of the Virgo design. So is Mercury in the 11th of hopes and dreams and communities? Yes. Or is Mercury in the 12th of hidden things? Yes. And I work with many house systems. I think Mercury would ask me to, especially since I was born with Gemini in the rise. Not sure that that's how Virgo would roll. When Virgo's rising, well, then we see this Cancer sun in the 11th. But you know what? To take this out of time, though this clock time will still show, I'm just going to do this. And we're going to take those planets away. And I want to speak about the Virgo map. And so a fun game that perhaps Mercury asks in this moment, since Mercury is in the Leo, which is the 12th of Virgo, is why would Virgo hide Leo? Okay, so, well, why would I even ask that question? And I'm not going to, because we're going to let the fates take us through our questions today. And I'm holding in my hands 2 of the 3 Astro Dice of a set. If you're not familiar with Astro Dice, they are genius devices. They are 3 dodecagonal, so 12-sided die. One of them simply has the number 1 through 12 for the houses, and another has the 12 signs with their glyphs. The other one, which is not currently here, we won't use today anyway, has the planets, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and then the north and south lunar nodes. And so they're fun because you can roll them, and let's say I get Venus and I get Cancer in the 11th. So what is a 11th house Cancer Venus, right? And so we can use them for practice and exercise. Like, how would I delineate that? Right? What is Venus in the 11th? What is Venus in Cancer? What is Cancer in the 11th? Bringing them all together, like playing with that ability that astrology demands of us to be able to work within different symbolic expressions and rub them together into one story. Or I like to say, there's these many ingredients and it's important to know what each one is, but what's much more important is what stew are we cooking up for ourselves. Yeah. So I love the Astro Dice for divination purposes as well. I've seen them to be very powerful in that regard, where you ask a question, you roll the dice. It's much like if you speak astrology, like drawing a tarot card. It used to be a time in my life when I was just traveling around and doing astrology talks. And after the talk, I'd probably end up at somebody's house. Maybe I was staying there. Who knows? It's like the gathering. We're out watching the stars. And, people are kind of inevitably wanting to talk about their charts and asking you to read their charts, or because you're this visiting astrologer in town or something. And I, wanted to have really good boundaries and just not go there. But a thing I would do is like roll the dice. And they might speak about a specific part of themselves, maybe even voice that astrologically, or, just as spirit arises, share from their heart, and we'd roll the dice. And, tears have flowed many times in late night Astro Dice session. Like, they can really get real. They're very fun devices if you speak astrology, and they're very fun devices to help you learn to speak astrology. And I want to offer something to you. Many of you have heard this from me before, that I offer to all of my students, which is working with the Astro Dice to get to understand the relationship of the signs, and to do this in a way that the fates decree. Because, it's hard in astrology not to just go, okay, here's Aries, and then there's Taurus, and then there's Gemini, and then there's Cancer, and Aries is sextile Gemini and square Cancer and trine Leo, and Taurus is sextile Cancer and square Leo and trine Scorpio, opposite Scorpio, trine Virgo, right? Like, we want to, by the way, get into that place where we can see the maps, see the frameworks in space with our face, like, in the mind's eye. And learning whole sign houses, which simply says if Virgo's rising, Virgo's rising. Virgo is the first. Libra is the second, right? It helps us tune into the sacred geometry of astrology, of 12ness. Creation creates in 12s, and helps us see the relations, and helps us also understand things of relations, aspects between signs, and how they work between houses too. So, for example, most folks will understand that Libra and Aquarius are trine. But when you're looking at the Virgo map, as I like to call a Virgo whole sign chart, and explore that, then, you also get to see, that means the 2 and the 6 are trine. Or the 3 air signs, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, in the Virgo map become 2, 6, and 10. And there's a grand trine that connects the 2nd, the 6th, and the 10th. I typically cast quadrant house charts. I'm right now playing with Placidus houses. I kind of go through many different house systems. I think they have different applications, but I'm always in the background also running whole sign astrology, because for me, it speaks about the kind of framework of the way that the signs relate. And I'll suggest that there are 12 different frameworks for this. Modern astrology sadly tends to teach only one, which is Aries rising chart, the so-called natural zodiac. And there's a purpose for that. You've heard me share it many times. Earth's North Pole leans towards 0 degrees tropical Cancer, which is why that degree of the sun's path is above Earth's Tropic of Cancer. Tropic of Cancer, cardinal Cancer is cardinal north, like literally defined by Gaia's spine, the sword of our stone, a world tree, Earth's rotational axis. Capricorn is south. Well, Aries, the Pisces-Aries cusp is due east of the center of Earth, where we are all one. That is where we measure planets and the signs from, not from the surface where we live, breathe, and can witness the heavenly happenings, but rather from the center of the earth, that place beneath our feet, where we are all one, where we earthlings are whole. It knows no seasons, it knows no cultures, it knows no, do you drink the Coke or the Pepsi in your political leanings, right? It is just earth center, and beautifully, because we measure the aspects, the relationships between planets and between signs from the center of the earth. The signs are about the center of the earth. We are learning through that contemplation that what astrology is our experience of Earth's experience of the heavens. So some might tell you that like Jupiter has no effect on Stephen, for example, because Jupiter is so far away. Now, actually, interestingly, in Newtonian physics, we can show that there's a measurable tidal effect of Jupiter on your body. But we can't do this for Uranus, and certainly can't for Pluto. Most astrologers do not need some mechanical solution for the as above, so below. But I kind of do. And I like to be able to have debates with rationalists and folks who suggest that I'm wasting my time with this fake pseudoscience and the like. And, you know, the response to, well, Jupiter doesn't have any effect on you is, well, does Jupiter have an effect on Earth? And who would deny that truth? So then Jupiter has an effect on all Earthlings. Okay. Down beneath our feet, this I can't prove to you. I believe there's a hexagonal crystal, and that with its 6 faces and 6 points, the 12 signs of the zodiac emanate from there. And we see the relationships. You know, a square would be the relationship of a face to a point. A sextile, like one face to the next. A trine, one face to the next one after that, right? Like it's all in the dodecagonal 12ness of amazement. We can hear it in the musical harmony. There's a quote that I love that comes from Hamlet's Mill, which is that the ancient Chinese wisdom keepers teach us that the pitch pipes and the calendars are so closely related, you cannot squeeze a hair between them. I love that so much. Because the pitch pipes, there's 12 of them for a very natural reason. It is just an expression of the harmonic series. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to shut the door and be right back. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has a heavy heart because there's a crying baby in the background. Yeah, so 12ness is just reality. Nadine asks, I'm curious, why do you believe the crystal is at the core of the earth? That comes from some seismic and research and computer modeling that showed up in an article in Nature magazine some time ago. It's the work of Lars Stixrud and what is Cohen's first name? I can't remember. But basically, from the limited data that we are getting from the inner Earth, right, where we're just kind of like shooting beams in there and seeing what echoes back and at which rate, and you know, we haven't dug too far into the planet. From the data that's coming back through computer modeling, most geologists, most scientists are now stepping away from the image that I was taught in school, which is like this iron ball at the center of the planet, and getting to actually there's like tons of tiny hexagonal crystals, some cubic, and that they all kind of form this like super crystal, iron crystal, like literally, right? So it's not a quartz crystal like this one that I'm waving around. And that the crystals will align themselves when in a fluid, like magma, to a magnetic field, or to, more importantly, in this case, from a planetary perspective, to the planet's rotation, and therefore, by the way, to the cardinal directions, and therefore, by the way, to the tropical zodiac. Of course, these researchers aren't going to the zodiacal implication of this, but I very much do. I happen to feel that the great hexagon that we find on Saturn's North Pole, hopefully y'all have seen it. We've been seeing it since 79 or 80, when the Viking, I believe, probes got out there. Nowadays, like, some telescopes are good enough to see this a bit, even from Earth, depending on the season and Saturn. Let me show it to you. So it's 3 times the diameter of Earth. And like, here's some of the very recent images from James Webb Telescope. I believe that one. Here's a GIF. Maybe that's not coming through in that way, but it remains aligned to Saturn's cardinal directions. In other words, Saturn's rotational axis. I happen to think, and it's really wonderful, right? Because Saturn teaches us about form. That Saturn happens to be made of the type of stuff that allows for a surface expression of what is hidden deep below. Let me see if Jupiter as well. Jupiter. And if y'all came for the Astro Dice, I know you're like, dude, let's get to it. So let's get to it. But these are hexagonal storm shapes on Jupiter. So another one of these gas giants, right? Like and they spin very quickly, both Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter's rotation is like less, it's just over 10 hours, like 10, Earth hours. I think they're made of the right stuff for us to see this hexagonal core expressed in their surface. I think stars have hexagons all around. Like, ask the queen bee. Okay, and then that's at the root of, to get back on track, if you will, to these double hexagons, these dodecagons. Dodecagon is the 12-sided polygon, right? It's in the geometry of astrology because it's in the geometry of nature. Many will say that 5 is the number of human and 6 is the number of the cosmos. That 6 would come from the zodiac, and I've become convinced over my research, seeing that, for example, because the signs of the tropical zodiac work, and that they are definitely not constellational, and how can they be seasonal if they work in Australia and in California, or in Hawaii and London? What are they? And it's brought me to a directional model of the zodiac based upon the Earth's cardinal directions. Well, there's only 4 of those, not 12. Why isn't it that we take the quesadilla and cut it in half, and in 4, and then in 8s, as we all do? Why 12? Why not 10? That we have 12 in our hands also. And the answer is creation creates in 12s. And when you start studying the sacred geometry, you find it very quickly through the structure that we call the seed of life. When you study it harmonically, musically, we find it in the harmonic series of music, although that's not as dialed in. When you study it astronomically, it's a little trickier to be with 12ness. It's 12.37 lunations in a year, for example. I haven't read this yet, but let's put it up. Melinda says there's a lot of new research out about the spin of the center of the Earth going through rotational changes in a cycle of 72 years. Fantastic. That's cool, right? So 72 years for 1 degree of precession as well. Many teach that the standard human heartbeat, 72 beats per minute. Obviously, there's a range of healthy hearts, and on we go. 72, a very important number in the sacred stories and the old myths and the like. Okay, so what we're going to do is just roll the dice, y'all. And in this case, I'm going to roll only the sign die and the house die. And let me just let them roll. And I got Cancer and 4. Hilarious. So the question is, what is the 4th of Cancer? And you'll get to a place, if that's not automatic for you already, that becomes automatic. Now, I want to say that if you're born in the northern hemisphere with a Cancer rising chart, it is likely that you have a Pisces midheaven. If you were born in the southern hemisphere with a Cancer rising chart, it is likely that you have a Taurus midheaven. A good friend of mine, a great astrologer, Joe G, he moved from a place of his birth in the southern hemisphere, Cancer rising Taurus midheaven, and his relocated chart in Canada, Cancer rising Pisces midheaven. Awesome. It's like, dude, you skipped Aries, which would have been somewhere near the equator. Anyway, in the whole sign framework, and that's all we can do with the dice. I'm not talking about the 4th as the IC degree. I'm talking about the 4th as the 4th whole sign in the Cancer map. And, let's put the Cancer map on the screen, and I'll share one other thing about this. One, in astrology, we have a timing technique called annual Profections, which is a simple counting technique, okay? So if you were born with Virgo rising, or let's do a Cancer rising chart. So in this case, I'll just rewind some hours until we have Cancer on the rise. If we were born Cancer rising, it's Cancer for life. You are a child of the moon. But we say the ascendant also profects with an F through each sign annually. And so when you turn 1, you're in a Leo year for the second year of your life. It's a second house year, we say. When you turned 2, if you start with Cancer rising, you're in a Virgo year. We say a Mercury year, like this. When you turn 3 and enter the 4th year of your life, you're in a Libra year and therefore a Venus year, okay? So in this timing technique of annual and monthly profections and daily profections, by the way, we see in the tradition this kind of work through the sacred geometry of not just one map, but of 12 maps, right? Like, so here we were at the beginning of StarryTelling Hour. Virgo was rising locally. If I go now, no, that didn't work. If I go now, it's a Libra rising chart where I am. Let me just do that. What time is it? 11:44. That's fun. I started at 11:11. It's been 33 minutes, and now it's 11:44. I might have been late. So I have Libra rising where I am right now. Well, you're not where I am. Stephen, you're close by. Maybe others are here too from the Bay or from Western time zones where maybe Libra's rising. Let me show you in this moment, in every moment, the Earth is like a 12-paneled beach ball of 12 different rising signs. So right now, I happen to be sitting in one of the places on Earth. Nadine, you as well, down there in Baja, California. I think we saw a message from Colorado before. Anyway, we're in the Libra rising space, right? But folks who are tuning in from New York in this moment are in the Cancer rising space. Sorry, in a Scorpio rising space. And by the way, as we move through time, the Earth is spinning this way, like where I sit. It won't be too long before Scorpio is rising here, right? So we're on the Earth kind of spinning around this beach ball, which I see emanating from the crystal heart of Earth. Personally, I think the signs emanate from the heart of Earth outwards rather than coming to us from space. I should say that of the tropical zodiac, there's a celestial framework coming to us from the other side. Tale for another time. So in any moment, right, there are kind of equal spaces on Earth where you can find the 12 different rising signs, right? And so Astro Gold has made it crazy convenient for me to be able to map this. Let me see. I have to play a different game real quick. Okay, cool. Where I can just put this chart on the screen. And we just moved from the Virgo rising space, currently happening in Hawaii, to a Libra rising space, like where I am right now, to a Scorpio rising space, like New York or Cuba in this moment, to a Sagittarius space, like Machu Picchu in this moment, maybe, certainly Lake Titicaca, to a Capricorn rising space, right? And we can just move from one of the 12 sign frameworks to the next. Now, I want you to be able to do this in your head, okay? And so when I roll the dice and I get the I get 4 in Cancer, the question is, what is the 4th of the Cancer design? And so we need to be able to see the map. Now, 1, 4, 7, 10, that's connected through the Grand Cross. So if you know anything about modality or quadruplicity, the groups of 4, like Cancer is a cardinal sign. And so the 1, 4, 7, and 10 of the Cancer map, as I call Cancer rising charts, at least from the whole sign framework, those are all going to be the cardinal signs, right? And so you say, okay, like Cancer and 4, you can't just go Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, right? And as you're starting, that's cool. But it's at some point, it just lands for you through your practice that, okay, well, 4 is square, Cancer is square. Of course, other cardinal signs, those would be Aries and Libra, and Aries rises before Cancer. So when Cancer is rising, Aries is the 10th sign. Libra's the 4th sign. Do you see? No, I mean, interestingly, and that's kind of why I giggled. And this happened on Sunday when I was talking about the Cancer Libra square and said, you know what, let's do on StarryTelling Hour this week. Let's like play a dice game. And then I rolled the dice, and I think I got either the 10th of Libra or the 4th of Cancer. Either way, you get Libra and Cancer. And it was hilarious because I had just been talking about that waxing half moon, that Libra moon square the Cancer sun, in a Cancer lunation, in a Cancer Capricorn lunation, and really sitting with the challenge between Cancer and Libra. One of the ways I always teach it and actually see it show up is Pyramus and Thisbe, which you'll probably know a later version of the tale, which is called Romeo and Juliet, right? So Libra, right? There's this relationship. But for some reason, the cult from which we come, whether it's the family or the country or the race or religion or whatever, is telling us that that person's not like us. They're not equal to us. We can't go there. I mean, how often do we find parents? I mean, I should speak quietly because the month-old baby daughter, and she won't be a month old forever. And so at some point, when am I going to be like, just like, why did she choose that guy or that gal? Like, and why, So it's not uncommon, of course, for parents to have a hard time with the ones that we've fallen in love with. Like all that's in the Cancer Libra square. We could go on and on about it, but let me ask it this way. If Cancer is rising, Libra's the 4th. And the 4th is home, roots, family, ancestry, the land itself, right? And so people these days will say the 4th is Cancer. That's because they're stuck in the natural zodiac. Again, there's an astronomical reason for that. The Pisces-Aries cusp is due east of the center of the earth where we are all one. It is the global ascendant. The tropical signs are Earth's houses. We live on Earth, but we're born not of the center. Maybe you were. If you were, tell me about the crystal. Is that right? But rather at the surface. And on the surface, Aries is not always rising. In fact, in the northern hemisphere, it's the sign that rises most quickly, along with Pisces. So statistically, it's improbable to have Aries rising in the northern hemisphere, and 80% plus worth of people live in the northern hemisphere, okay? So statistically, we should see a lot less Aries and Pisces rising charts than other charts. I haven't necessarily seen that to be true in my astrological practice, but I'm practicing astrology. It's not like I'm seeing charts for like a good oh, I don't know the statistical terms, like, but like, I'm seeing specialized people with an interest in personal growth and possibly an interest in this, definitely an interest in astrology, right? So anyway, um, so the fourth is not Cancer. The fourth is Cancer when Aries rises. Now, for some people, that will really challenge your astrology, and I will say that that is your Cancerian home, okay, or your fourth. Where are you rooted? Right, so, like, the paradigm of your practice, the gang of your choice, right? Like, astrology paradigms can be very much political, but they're religio-political in a sense, like, how does a soul work, you know? Is this fate or free will? Like, all those things, like, there's something actually fourthness in it. There's also a ninethness in it, because the ninth, traditionally, the house of God, the pilgrimage, the journey, higher learning, exploration, spirituality, astrology, on and on we can go. And then intriguingly, consider that the fourth and the ninth traditionally are inconjunct. They're quincunx. So oftentimes we don't understand how much our religion is based upon what we were taught in our home, whether like we stick with that or we bust away from it. What's in like the seed of our ancestors, or even what we were told in school. You see what I mean? Like that can all be fourth house stuff. So the question is, why is Libra the fourth of the Cancer design? Okay. So we can get to some other examples, because I could just be on this one forever, and it's taken me 40 minutes to get here anyway. Brevity is not my specialty, dude. Let me just tell you that for me, the rising sign, it is the horoscope. That's the old language. It is the oyax, the rudder. That's the old language. And it's what the chart is all about. What was rising when you rose is rising within you. That's where I'm coming from. And it sets up the entire framework of your surface conditions, which means the houses of the chart. When we start releasing ourselves from the modern idea that health is our signs, that the fourth is Cancer, that the fifth is Leo, etc., we start realizing how important astrological houses are. When we start following the sun or the stars through the sky day and night, we start realizing how important the houses are, and that they're very different things than signs, and that they're equal. So when I see Cancer rising, I see Cancer rising within you. I see that if you're born with Cancer rising, you are on a Cancer path. You are here to learn Cancer. You are here to learn nurturing. You are here to learn safety. You are here to learn tenderness. And probably you don't know about it so much, and probably you were in experience in youth that didn't even allow for that. Oftentimes we see folks go straight to nurturing the younger sibling or the animal or the older sibling or mom in such a way that they don't get to have a youth. But Cancer wants balance in its framework, like for it to operate most beautifully, like Libra is the fourth of Cancer, right? So let's be in a place of harmony, equality, consideration, right? Because Cancer, I mean, look at the glyph. It has a lot to do with the sun at the tropics, but tale for another time. We want balance there too. And it's really hard to find balance in the Cancer reality, because it can be such a watering, such a nurturing, such a service to others. I feel that in all of the cardinal signs, Aries included. But when we can reorient ourselves and reroute ourselves into a orientation of harmony, balance, which includes balancing giving and receiving, then not only can we walk in a better Cancer way, but we can help Cancer walk in a better way. All right, let's roll them again. And at this point, what I like to do is roll only one of the die. So the idea is we started in Cancer, we rolled 4, that brought us to Libra, and now we're in Libra. And so I'm thinking of a Libra rising chart. And by the way, you don't need Astro Dice for this. I have found, I should say, that Etsy is the place to get them if you want to get some Astro Dice if you don't have them. 2 6-sided die from your local board game work just as well and might even be better, because all you need is a rising sign or a sign and you roll them. And the nice thing about 2 6-sided dice, you can't get one, right? Because like asking why is Libra the first of Libra is actually a really deep contemplation, but we're not going to go there right now. So if I roll a 1, I'm going to roll it again. So I started with Cancer. I rolled Cancer in 4. Libra is the 4th of Cancer. I spoke a little bit about that. I would love for y'all to add anything here, and I'll put it on the screen. Why do you feel that the Cancer mysteries are meant to be rooted in the Libra design? I should say, by the way, if you're watching this on Instagram, I can't put your comments on the screen. So come on over to the YouTube space, geminibrett.com/YouTube. We'll get you there quickly, or you can follow the link tree in my bio. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I'm actually able to see your comments pop up, and I can put them up on the screen here, and I would love to. So if you want to say anything about what is the 9th of Libra. Okay. So first of all, let's just put that out there. Don't get into your pop quiz fear. What is the 9th sign of the Libra design? People will ask it like, what's 9 from Libra? I prefer the 9th of Libra. It kind of comes from a musical harmony thing. And so we hear here from Kelly, Gemini. Aces. Kelly, if you feel like sharing, how did you get there? Or Wendy, how did you get there? Or, oh, what is this beautiful name? Is it Oriami? What a wonderful gathering of letters. So yeah, how did we get to Gemini as the 9th of Libra? Wendy says she worked up from the descendant, right? It's great. So to get to 9, well, I can Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, or I can know, Kelly's got a good one. Because I know a man who's Libra rising, which is a very Libra response, right? I know somebody, I'm related with somebody who has Libra rising, so I've seen the chart. Okay, interesting. But we heard from Wendy, I went from the descendant, right? So this is great because we're connecting in geometries, right? And actually, if I want to like look at in my chart, the sibling of my partner, let's say I want to ask him for a job, anyway, in my chart, the sibling of my partner is the Lord of the 9th. Why? Because the partner is the 7th, sibling is the 3rd, and then you go 7, 8, 9. The 3rd of the 7th is the 9th. My partner's brother is represented by the 9th house in my chart. It's not only my partner's brother at all. All right. So that's one of the ways that we play with so-called derived houses. Like we can find your boss's neighbor's second wife's cat in your chart, right? But another way where we can play with derived houses is just to look at the relationships of the sign. Why is Gemini the 9th of Libra? Right. And again, we're kind of working it this way. Wendy says, well, she realized that Gemini was the 9th of Libra because she knows the poles. If Libra's rising, Aries is setting. Okay. So that's like the first place to work. That's called the second harmonic. What is the partner of each sign? Right? If I said, what's the 7th of Libra? we would have had a faster, even probably, and probably more responses that all said Aries, 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 Aries. Aries and Libra, two sides of one thing, just like hot and cold are two sides of a thing called temperature. Libra, otherness, not relationship. Othership, Libra, selfness, Aries, balance those two to walk in the middle way of right relationship, you see? If you ask yourself things like, what is the one thing that Taurus and Scorpio are the two sides of? You're going to learn a lot about your astrology. And once you have a bunch of different answers, there's not necessarily the one right answer, by the way. What is the one thing that Taurus and Scorpio are the two sides of? Flip the script. What is the one thing that Scorpio and Taurus are the two sides of? And you'll be like, I already answered that. And you're like, wait, actually, if I look from that other point of view, it's kind of like a different thing. Okay, so we want to know our poles. Second harmonic. By the way, the next is 3, which is the grand trines. And if you learn things like 159 creates a grand trine, you can also then very easily understand that when Libra's rising, I'm asking for the 9th, it's going to be trine away, and that the trines, the triangles, connect signs of the same triplicity, signs of the same element. So when I'm asking for the 9th of Libra, it, like Libra, must be an air sign. All right. But you roll these things enough, you get to all 144 possibilities again and again and again and again. So people will teach you that the 9th is Sagittarius. No, the 9th of Aries is Sagittarius. What's the 9th of Libra? And the opposite is true. Now, it's a really fun little thing about the Libra rising map. And in Libra, we're asked to look through the eyes of the other. We're asked to walk in the other's shoes. We want to be seen through others' eyes, right? And in a sense, it flips the so-called natural zodiac on its head. So people will say Aries is first. No, Libra is first in the Libra map. People will say Libra is the 7th sign. No, Aries is the 7th in the Libra map. People will say Sagittarius is the 9th sign. No, Gemini is the 9th in the Libra map. It flips everything, right? You're looking at kind of the polar expression of what modern astrology teaches to be the essence of a particular house. And it's a great way to really honor what Libra is all about. Okay, so why is Gemini the 9th of Libra? Well, Libra, I will suggest, is the path of learning consideration, which means, you know, with the stars. But learning, let me use the terms of Daniel Gemario, who was my first teacher and a really great teacher of the astrological archetypes. Equal, non-hierarchical, balanced relating. Okay. Equality. Now, when we hear that word equality, you might think this is about everybody is equal. No, that's equanimity. That's what Libra births. So let's just play there, okay, and talk about this whole grand air trine. Because when you have consideration and you find equal balance with another, then that will birth, first of all, community, because you have your crew and now you fall in love and they have their crew, you know. But it births also this ideal of this ideal, the ideal. Sorry, that was my Biden impersonation, but adding an extra letter. Equality births equanimity. Would I really work towards and play towards having an equal and balanced experience with you or someone else, right? That brings the opportunity of taking a whole nother level of that consideration to equanimity. We're all equal, right? Which is more of an Aquarian theme. Well, what does the Aquarian theme birth? Gemini. And why am I saying birth? Because the child is the 5th, and the 5th of Libra is Aquarius, and the 5th of Aquarius is Gemini, and the 5th of Gemini is Libra, and the 5th of Libra is Aquarius, right? Let me play with this in the natural zodiac just for a bit. So baby, for example, Maya, recently I watched it happen. She came out of the womb. We kind of, from the natural zodiac perspective, think about that as like a Piscean realm, 12thness, the all that is. She's born into self, right? So by sign, that's kind of Aries. By house, it's the first thing, right? What am I? The cord is cut. Suddenly she can't eat through mama's placenta snorkel anymore. What a drag. Right? And now she has to find her own needs, She has to communicate them to us. Tricky, especially because I don't speak baby. People have sent me some helpful tools, by the way. What is this baby? Like, I want to do anything to help this baby have her needs met. And when she's crying and I don't know how to fix it. I'm a dude. It's really hard, But it helps me learn, like, just be there for her. Let her cry. Lately, it's been like really needing to get that poo going. And so just encourage that. Anyway, that issue that we have needs is a very tricky thing. That's the second house in the human experience, because we're born into this cult that says that giving is receiving, and therefore it says that receiving is taking. You don't want to be a taker, do you? So it's very hard to catch up with needs, and that it's okay to have them. Once we do, we have to voice the needs that we have that can't be fulfilled from within, which can be as simple as you need a carrot, you need food, But you need touch, you need comfort, you need to be seen, honored, and all these different things, right? And that's like, look to the second house in your chart to understand more about that. And it's something that hides from you, by the way. It's an important part of the astrological opportunities that are observed when we explore the chart in this kind of geometric / archetypal way. So the baby's communicating her needs. That's a third. It has no care for what my needs are. Daddy, let me tell you what I need right now so you can soothe me and then you won't be freaking out. She might be telling me she needs me to not be freaking out because she's super psychic and all that. I don't know. Right. But most likely she's telling me that she needs to be fed, or she needs to be held, or she needs to be freed from that snuggle suit, which I'm like, the girl's a Gemini, give her arms, like whatever, right? All I'm hearing is like different versions of cry. Now, how would that thirdness birth the seventh? Because eventually we get to this place where we have found the way to language our needs. Have you? Have I? Even then, like when you're trying to language your need to a partner, that's a seventh house theme. You have to learn to share what you need in their language. Do you see how the third births the seventh? Or if I talk in signs in this way, how Gemini births Libra? First, we have baby translators in our midst, and so there you go. Just chill, and some of that's it. It's just like, what, I can just be here and let this baby cry, and like, Kelly, I want to put this giggle on the screen. But this will be, if Aquarius is setting, then Leo is rising. So what is the second of Leo? And the answer is Virgo. Well, what are those needs? When Leo rises, the third is Libra. What is the vehicle of expression? How does that bring us to the seventh? So the third births the seventh. The seventh is the fifth of the third. The seventh births the 11th. The 11th is the fifth of the seventh. The 11th births the third. When you're around a larger group, you need to learn new languages. even if we're all speaking English or we're all speaking French or whatever. You see? Now, back to the dice. Why is Gemini the ninth of Libra? Well, the ninth is the place of study, amongst many other things. Why must Libra study in Gemini? So if I want to learn Libra, if I want to learn harmony, balance, peace, equality, relating in a balanced, non-hierarchical way, why would I need to study at a university called Gemini? Does anyone want to answer that question here? I mean, I can't ask a question about Libra and then answer it myself. So, Wendy, because they need the others? Oriami, can you just write yes or no if I'm pronouncing your name correctly? Is Oriami the correct pronunciation of your name? If you write no, I will try something else to see both sides, to learn, communicate. Yes. Curiosity. Oh, fantastic. Well, Melinda answered the question with the question, which is so zen. Okay, so my next attempt is Oriam, silent E. Beautiful name. Gemini, house of communication, balanced view, right? So this is an interesting place where we play with the terms like signs and houses, which is also really important in Gemini and Libra and the air sign, right? It's like languaging, air expression, Libra, the air that we share. So they need the communication, curiosity. That's a really fun one, Stephen. Like, how are you going to have Libra if you're not curious? If you're not curious enough to know what makes the other tick, you will not have consideration. You know, the fourth of Libra is Capricorn, right? So there's a framework of these are the rules. Be nice, do unto others as they would do unto you, right? So we might be running that program kind of on default. Those are the rules of the game, and I'm here to play. But truthfully, if we really want to understand another, which is required to Libra, we have to be curious. And we have to learn their language. We have to honor in doing so. This is the hardest thing, right? That there are many truths. In that just because somebody on that side of my house drinks the Coke and votes that way and they drink the Pepsi, that doesn't mean either of them are wrong. They're both right in their own way. Gemini knows this. Sagittarius is the opposite side of that thing where there is truth with a capital T. That's a pull. But for us to Libra, for us to truly Libra, it's not about, as I like to say, bringing them to the light. It's about learning to see the light in them. You have to be curious. You have to be interested. You have to study many languages, even if it's just a different version of English. And I'm not speaking about one accent versus another. I'm speaking about I can just as clearly as possible with articulation and enunciation, tell my partner exactly what I need. And it might sound like, oh, yeah, to her because she speaks a different language because she's not me. Libra must study at Gemini University. Okay, so now we're in Gemini. So we're going to roll the die. And I'm getting number 12. What is the 12th of Gemini? Please tell. So, Oriama, just put this, very interesting. You know my chart, and I am Libra rising, right? So I don't know your chart, but this is how the Libra code is designed. So I'm glad to know that it's speaking to you, because you, amongst many others, are here to learn Libra and to help Libra learn. Okay, and Taurus. Taurus, right? The 12th of Gemini is Taurus. Oh, and Orion, I'm seeing that you are now right on. Awesome. One of our first soul songs, I think, went out to you. And then one for a solar return, if I remember correctly. Really nice to hear from you again, bro. Taurus, the 12th of Gemini is Taurus. Okay, so here's a fun one that I have to consider. I'm Gemini rising. My south node is in Taurus. Mars and Uranus just conjoined in my 12th, yada, yada. What is the 12th? So part of the things around the 12th are hidden things. The 12th in the tradition is inconjunct the first. The first and the 12th do not connect by one of the 7 rays, which is opposition, the 2 trines, the 2 squares, the 2 sextiles, right? 8 would be cohabitation. So every sign traditionally is blind to 4 other signs, our neighbors, so Gemini to Taurus and to Cancer, and blind to the neighbors of our pole. Gemini is opposite Sagittarius, whose neighbors are Scorpio and Capricorn. So those are the quincunxes, 150 degrees, blind spots for Gemini. And if you look at a house system, this is revealed through whole and equal, especially easy to see in that kind of geometrical framework of 12 equal slices. The first is said traditionally to be blind to the 12th, and the second. That's why I said our needs aren't something that we even can see, and said to be blind to the 6th and the 8th. And that's why in the tradition, those are the quote unquote bad houses, the 12th, the 8th, the 6th, and the second. The second these days gets off the hook. But they do say the love of money is the root of all evil. Anyway, the 12th is about hidden things. It's the shadow you don't know, which is a true shadow. The 4th is the shadow you do. It's the things that we suppress. It's the things that you were told not to say. Bring it back out. The 12th are the things that you don't even know you don't know. There's other ways in, right? It's mystical space. It's spirits. It's mental institutions and prisons back in the day. Why? Because it's faith. Right, the 9th, I will say, is seeking, and when we do, we find our faith. That what we know to be true, that we can't show it because we can't see it. Hidden things, the mysteries, mysticism and such, but hidden things. So, a fun question, and it's not like the best question, but it's a great first question. Because, we were in Gemini, we rolled the 12th. Why is Taurus the 12th of Gemini? That's fun, Don. I didn't even mean to put that answer on, but just in time. Thank you for that. Why is the 12th house hidden things, right? Think about Gemini rising with a Taurus sun. The sun rises to illuminate the earth, but when he does, he hides the heavens. Now, why would Gemini hide Taurus? Anyone have answers for that? Wow, Shauna, it feels like you are designed to explore that question in many, many ways. What are some things that Gemini wants that feel in a way as like a contrast to Taurus? Okay, you're not talking about people. You're not talking about your friend Taurus. We're not going to hold you to it, but say some bad things about Taurus. What is Taurus? What's a kind of a tricky behavior in this Taurus mysteries? And by the way, I'm seeing some really great answers, but it'd be good to answer with a complete sentence so you're kind of getting the point across. I'm hearing it. Here we go. And Nadine, beautiful. I meant to hit Stevens here, but it's the same thing. Hiding stubbornness. You know, Steven is so stubborn that he refuses to use the U key on his keyboard. He's been like this for years. Ever since he named himself Stephen the Jupiterian, he was like, that's the last U I will ever. You see, he tried to say use, but he's not allowed to say you. Just kidding, Jupiter. And I definitely am not the person to fault challenging typing, especially at the keyboard, and spelling. I couldn't spell assassination the other day. It took me a while. And then I was like, I'll never forget it again because it's ass-I-nation. How about that? Okay. So hiding stubbornness. Right. So this is a thing that is said about Taurus. I'm not saying it is what Taurus is. What is Taurus? Taurus is embodiment. Is it the stubborn bull? No, it is the cow. Either way, they have 7 stomachs. It's a slow digestion. And you know that's why they chew or masticate for so long, because they're digesting before any of it happens. And that's why we're reminded to eat with our hands instead of a fork, because the digestion starts then. Or when you put the seed in your mouth, to help the seed understand what you need and its nutrients before you plant it. And so everybody in the house has their own plot, you know? But what if I eat my partner's carrots? Sorry, I'm back in Libra. Right. And so Taurus, slowing down, grounding, releasing the rat race to find the grace of Earth's pace. Right. In my Taurus, and some would say this in my South Node, and especially maybe Taurus South Node in the 12th, like I look at that when I'm having issues with weight and fitness and motivation in that sense. But like, I like to order the same thing at the restaurant every time. Super Taurus. Because I know it's that thing that's going to give me pleasure. That is not Gemini design, right? It's maybe some shadow stuff that the Gemini design is meant to experience, though. And I'd love to compare notes in that regard with other folks of the Gemini rising design. Shauna, who is a Taurus specialist, especially if she had been born an hour or two earlier and had all those Taurus planets in the 1st instead of in the 12th, right? By the way, I just want to celebrate how much y'all are participating here. Thank you. It really helps us go. I mean, I wish we were all on and just talking, and you know. So Shauna, here's a fellow Gemini rising designed being. Same thing, always order the same thing, right? Now you have a lot more Taurus specialty than I do. But you know, like Gemini wants to be curious, wants to look at the many truths. Like every menu item has its own story to tell. Why are you only listening to one? Do you see what I'm saying? And so part of the Gemini design is to try to hide away that, I don't want to say shadow. I don't mean to point fingers at it or call it bad. That happens too much, right? But to try to hide away that tendency towards stillness. Now, by the way, that's also the route in. So the Gemini design might have a particularly difficult time with monkey mind, as many meditators call it. I do. And so Taurus in the Gemini design is a pathway into 12th, into the hidden places, into the mysteries. Find stillness. Yeah. Okay, well, let's roll them again. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And hopefully you're exploring a bunch of questions I didn't ask. Why is Taurus the 12th of Gemini? Okay, so now we're in the Taurus frame, right? And we roll them again. And we get 4. And by the way, I can do this just walking around, and I'll smell a flower and I'm like, whoa, that's so Taurus. And I look at a license plate and the number 8 jumps out. And I'm like, what's the 8th of Taurus? And of course, that is Sagittarius. And why will Sagittarius be the death of Taurus? But how Taurus will be reborn. And I think about glamping. But anyway, we just rolled the dice and I said I would let the fates decide. So what is the 4th of Taurus? Who wants to answer that question? Don, I appreciate that this is speaking to you as well. What is the 4th of the Taurus design? Should we count on our fingers? You got to make sure you include Taurus, all right? So don't go Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, for example. You go Taurus, Cancer. See, Taurus is blind to Gemini. You go Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. I just don't do this on this way anymore. I used to. Now I say, like Arnaud probably did. Maybe he just knows the map. But Taurus is a fixed sign. The 4th is the same modality, 1, 4, 7, 10. That's the great square. So if a fixed sign's rising, then a fixed sign is on the 4th. And Leo is the fixed sign that follows Taurus through the wheel. Right? So Leo is the 4th of Taurus. By far, well, let me just leave that there. Okay, so why should Taurus root itself? Or let's say this, like find an orientation where it is rooted in the Leo mysteries. And again, I just want to honor that you might have a chart. Many of us here have Gemini rising charts with probably an Aquarius midheaven like mine and a Leo IC. So I ask about rooting myself in the Leo mysteries often because the IC, the bottom of the heavens, was there when I was born. But I also, because I'm Gemini rising, contemplate the 4th, which is Virgo in the whole sign framework. Okay, but we're in the Taurus framework now. And the 4th whole sign of Taurus is Leo. And typically Taurus rising charts also have a Leo IC. Okay, so what is Taurus about? Here's the thing I like to say about Taurus. Look, Ganesh might help us with this one. Beauty is a spiritual practice. Embodiment, slowing down, Epicureanism, smelling your smells, tasting the taste, taking your time. Flow, right? Dance, movement. Like Taurus, while Capricorn is the roots and the trunk of the tree, and Virgo is the leaf reaching for the light to do the photosynthesis, which feeds the thing. Taurus is the fruit. Taurus is the flower from which the fruit is born, if it is willing to be pollinated, you know? It's very important to the tree species. Melinda says, the Leo 4th house for Taurus makes me think of a green pasture, and green is the heart chakra. Probably relating Leo to the heart because Leo and the sun represents heart. But you know, a fun thing I'll see there is like, hey, grass needs the sun. But you know, we were in the inner earth before, this hot inner core, right? Like Leo down beneath the ground. How can you know your beauty, which I will suggest is a very important part of the Taurus walk. And it's a very tricky one to find in this world where we are asked to compare ourselves to the scary skeletons on the silver screens in the magazines and the checkout line, right? To really know your beauty, to be okay with where you are in your body. Ganesha, a great teacher in that, maybe also. Right, it requires reorienting ourselves in the inner mounted flame in confidence. Our creativity, Leo, can bring us to the beauty path. And interestingly, Leo rising has Taurus on the 10th. Right? So it's another way you can play the dice game. Like we rolled the 4th of Taurus is Leo, but that means that Taurus is the 10th of Leo. Right? And then you're like, oh, like 1, 4, 10, they have this interesting thing. Leo on the 4th, says Stephen, needs playfulness and to shine light at home, a leader of the household. And then the question that I ask is like, okay, how does that lead to a Taurus awakening? And this is the main place I kind of come with this, allowing your beauty to be seen. But first, it's having to access what is the inner beauty. You know, the 10th of Taurus is Aquarius, and this will change the world. Okay, let's just do a few more of these. Melinda's recommending sunbathing for any Taurus rising being to more deeply connect to Leo on the 4th, or for any Leo rising being to more deeply connect with Taurus on high. This is like interesting contribution from Ashley. Feels like kind of retrograding back to the why is Taurus the 12th of Gemini. Gemini wants to be appreciated for their intellect, not their physical appearance, right? I mean, probably prefer to be appreciated for all of it, but yeah, being seen as like, right. So like if you're beautiful and that's all people are seeing and not your mind or something, that's going to trigger Gemini more than it would other signs. I really appreciate seeing that, actually. And Steven's giving us another great recommendation for that Taurus rising Leo on the IC chart, which is decorate the home, make it beautiful, make it a really good nest too. Warmth. He says, sorry, I'm caught up now. No, thank you for catching us up. All right. So one more here, a few more. We're in the Leo framework now, and we let the dice roll. 5. What is the 5th of the Leo design? And I'll let you answer that. I want to check in with the Instagram world too, because I'm not getting those comments on screen. So again, if you're watching on Instagram and you want to play along for that reason, please come over to the YouTube space. GeminiBrett.com/YouTube will get you there. Okay, the 5th of Leo, Sagittarius. Sagittarius. Yeah, why? So what is the 5th? It's not Leo, right? Or else this question would have just made my computer blow up or whatever. When Leo is rising, the 5th sign is not Leo. The 1st sign is Leo. Pleasures is a word. Passion, romance, risk, creativity, games of chance, and taverns, interestingly, in the day. Why would that be? And the answer is because the sun moves through the 5th during the 3rd and 4th hours of night. Nighttime is the right time, y'all. So the sun sets the 1st hour of night. 1st hour of night, still light outside. The 2nd hour of night, you're cooking dinner and stuff, you're doing things, right? 3rd hour of night, it's dark. We get out, we play. The 5th traditionally has nothing to do with the sun, but it is the joy of Venus. Can you see why? The 3rd hour of night. Venus, one of the evening night sect planets in the tradition, and she likes passion and romance. Why children, which is the 5th house theme? Because children are the creations of our passionate romantic risks. but they also teach us how to be playful and passionate and creative again. And that play is a very good word. So why does Leo want to play, or is designed to play or learn to play in a Sagittarius sandbox? What? That's a weird one. Some of these, like, it's very easy. Or why does Leo birth Sagittarius? That's an interesting question, which might be answered in such ways as, like, confidence births optimism. Do you know, like, when I'm full of my light, which is part of the Leo path, I mean, so radiant in my light that others can ignite their own torch from my flame, which isn't me giving mine away. It's just, hey, I'm doing me. And they're like, whoa, I can do me, right? Like, that's like when Leo goes right. Which, by the way, rewinding a little bit, Leo on the 10th of Taurus, there's something there for us to hear. But confidence, and it's hard to claim confidence in this world that taught us that confidence is cockiness, that pride is arrogance. Lions roll in prides, y'all. And somebody's going to be the leader of the pack, and that's some Leo space. They will tell you that Leo needs the stage, Leo needs the spotlight. I will tell you that Leo is the spotlight. So the stage needs Leo, y'all. And when we're in that space, when we're in our radiant flame, there is a beautiful, creative confidence. And no matter what tidal wave comes my way, I will see it through. It's a different type of faith, you know? Do you see how that births Sagittarius? But I wonder if anyone has any more to teach me around Sagittarius as the 5th sign of the Leo design. Cool to hear a little bit of this family constellation, Stephen. Thanks for sharing. So his mom has Leo rising, and she taught me to be more optimistic. Interesting that I am Sagittarius rising and moon. Yeah, how cool to put your moon in your mother's 5th. Stephen also writes, the 5th of Leo is Sagittarius, freedom to children to be creative and play. It's fun. Yeah, there's something in sovereignty, right? That also opens up play in philosophy, right? So let's talk about Coke and Pepsi. And if people haven't gotten that yet, I'm sure you have. I'm talking about like the red and the blue politic teams, these cults, right? So let's say you're drinking only the Coke, right? Then you have to hate everything that Pepsi does. And you're like, I kind of like that one thing that the Pepsi people. You can't do that because you're in this cult, right? When you're in sovereignty, which is a great Leo word, and that comes from stoking the inner mounted flame, right? You can play in any philosophy. So here's like I'm gonna put this one in the kind of recommendation project, if or a category. If you're Leo rising, maybe use the tools and methods of other cultures, Sagittarius, in your creative projects. 5th, the Terrarian Librarian, my favorite names. Maybe it's the courageous heart of Leo that allows one to set out on the creative adventure of Sagittarius. Ooh, yeah. Right? Confidence birds, courage. That's a great Leo word too. I learned that recently, the difference between bravery and courage, which reads very Aries versus Leo. That bravery is like you don't even know that you're supposed to be afraid. Leo is, you know you are, but you respond, right, fearlessly anyway, right? You don't know. Like bravery would be responding fearlessly. Courage would be responding despite the fear. They both have their place. They're both awesome. Bravery births courage might be a fun way to play with Leo as the 5th of Aries. Well, what is that birth? What is courage birth? And journey, adventure, seeking. All right, we're getting somewhere. And it results in the joy philosophy and being able to focus our passion. Right, that Sagittarius arrow sounds like we're getting that from Arnaud here. Yes. All right, let's roll them twice more. Blowing that. We get 5. Okay, well, fun. What's the 5th of Sagittarius? So we get the whole grand fire trine because we rolled what's the 5th of Leo, Sagittarius. What's the 5th of Sagittarius? Aries, right? And we're kind of there already. We're what's the 5th of Aries? Bravery birds courage, courage birds adventure, adventure birds bravery. Heck yes, it does, right? Because once you get out into the great beyond, you will find the robbers on the road and the animals that are larger than you and all these things, you know. Look at how Aries is the 9th of Leo and Leo is the 9th of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the 9th of Aries. I bet you knew that one already, right? Look at this grand fire trine. See how it relates in the houses in this regard. Do we want to say anything else about Leo is the 5th of Sagittarius? Any wisdom you'd like to share? Leo is the 5th sign of Sagittarius. Is it that your religion taught you that you are the Christ? It depends on how you read the book, but there's an interesting one. Let me say you can find, seek, explore, travel far and wide, and what you will find is the treasure called the self divine. You know what? I hadn't considered it before, and I'm called to look at the chart of Pablo Coelho. Coelho, how do you pronounce? Who wrote The Alchemist? Because what I just shared was so The Alchemist. And sadly, well, let's just look at some of the places where we can look at famous people charts. How do I do this? Oh, they don't have him at Astro Seek. Let's go to Astro. Well, let's just do Pablo. So I hope you've read The Alchemist. It's one of the best things ever. Coelho. And I don't want to give it away, all right, if you haven't read it, but there's something in what I just shared to the point where it makes me wonder if this Leo as the 5th of Sagittarius is in the design of this particular author. And it's not. He rating of A, which means from memory, has a chart that shows the last degrees of Taurus on the rise. So Mars and Uranus conjoining at Pablo Coelho's ascendant right now. Might be interesting to go tune into what's up with him. It's fun that he arrived into StarryTelling Hour quite randomly in this way. But let me put his chart on the screen. Thanks to Astro Dice in the Astro Data Bank. So really strong third house Leo, but fourth whole sign, by the way, because it is Taurus on the rise. So author, look at all that voice, right? Born with who's where. Wait, what? Oh, the sun's into Virgo. Mercury at 25, Venus at 27 Leo. Saturn Pluto conjunction in the third house, fourth whole sign as well. But we have this moon, Sagittarius moon in trine, it would seem. Let's see, 7 Sagittarius for the moon. I always find these charts hard to read. The moon's applying to trine Saturn. We'll see Pluto first. Shy of a trine, but definitely applying. There's a stronger connection, it would seem, between the moon and Neptune, which is really wonderful for a dreamer. That's the sextile here. And let's not turn this into a chart reading of Pablo Coelho, but I will suggest that you read this novel if you haven't already, and if you have, you read it again. If you want, from my point of view, a really wonderful story that teaches us about Leo birthing Sagittarius and Sagittarius birthing Aries, Aries birthing Leo, and that great grand fire trine. Oh, interesting. And not surprising. Oh, and I was saying Pablo, and thank you for the correction, Arnon. Paulo. Okay. I'm forgetting what the question even was, though. I think we were in Sagittarius and rolled the dice. How does Sagittarius birth Aries? And I think it's that in our great journeys, we find ourself. In ourself, we find the greatest journey. And I think I got retrograded at some point in that mix too. But let me roll it once more, because that's the sign of a tired astrologer. And there's a baby and a mama. So one more. We are in Aries. So easy for everyone. What's the 7th of Aries? Which is great, because it brought us back where we began, Libra. Why is Libra the 7th of Aries? So let me just answer that with a word of gratitude, which is that it's so much more fun to play this with another than to do it by myself. And, you know, here we are more kind of an 11th. But when I'm receiving, you know, wisdom from one at a time, there's a 1-7 thing going on too. And it's important to remember that that's happening anytime we're in group and circle with folks with whom we share hopes, wishes, dream, vision for a greater world. You know? And I'm sharing that because there's a lot of 11th here. And by the way, I'm Gemini rising, so Aries is my 11th and Libra is my 5th. So what a wonderful treat to be able to play 5th about relationship Libra with a community 11th of amazing individuals, Aries, like each of you. Thank you for fulfilling my destiny here on StarryTelling Hour. Now, many of you have already joined the journey, but I hope that you will, if you have not yet, join us at the School of Astrology's membership community. It is called Constellations. Tonight, actually, in Constellations, in GeminiBrett.com/constellations, will get you to a page where you can learn all about it and sign up for our maiden voyage price of only $16 a month, $160 for the year. And as soon as you do, you will have access to, I don't know, 30 hours of classes that I've already put up. I think that's a stretch, maybe 20 hours of classes, but I teach a class every month, every first calendar Saturday. And then we have at this time 3 other teachers leading circles in constellations. Alyssa Luna is bringing us through embodiment practices aligned to the signs. So each month, Alyssa brings us to the sign of the time in such a powerful way. Let me actually just, oh, they making me sign in or something. Come on. But let me share this on the screen. So I want you to see all the things that go down in this wonderful place. And I know I'm talking to the stars of constellations in many ways. But so tonight, Amala Hall, who I had on StarryTelling Hour last week, she's an amazing alchemist, astro herbalist, super embodied. Speaking of Taurus, and she'll be tonight or today or whatever this time translates for you. But of course, everything is also recorded for your later view. I'll watch this one again and again. She'll be teaching plants and planets, astroherbalism of Cancer and the moon. We have a couple community discussion groups every Friday and one on Tuesdays. Sometimes those shift. Alyssa Luna will teach next week Leo astro embodiment, since the sun is soon to ingress. My next class will be more creative ways to play with Mercury retrograde. That's on August 3rd. And the following week, or it looks like the same, I think we'll make an adjustment to that. Phelan Shiva will be leading our Astro Tarot correspondence circle. So right now, every week, there's an astro herbalism or an astro embodiment or an astrology, meaning astrology and astronomy and geometry and stuff like this. I teach, or an astro tarot gathering. And it's been great. I know a lot of you are there and like haven't had the time. I'm kind of in that group right now with Maya having been recently born, but I can't wait to play more. I will say that when I am able to engage in the community discussions and whatnot, it's just brilliant to be in a community of awesome, awakening, awakening, individual, powerful souls. And I can say that also today, especially where I'm not just talking the whole time, but also listening and at least allowing your text to get on the screen and guide the ship a little bit as the dice led us through these mysteries. I'm just so appreciative of having community of amazing beings like you, and the present of your presence is the greatest gift. If you want to give back and support the work in any way, and just had a kid and I could really use it, book a session, geminibrett.com/sessions, or join us in constellations. It's amazing. geminibrett.com/constellations. Or if you just want to buy me a cup of tea, and do know I drink the expensive stuff. Anyway, geminibrett.com/donate is a place where you can just send $1 or $2 my way. Anything helps, and it always fuels the rocket ship and is so dearly appreciated. So thank you for spending time with me here at StarryTelling Hour today. I'm not positive yet, but I think next week we'll go into the sacred astronomy and earth astrology of the dog days, as they've long been called, and the 8/8 Lionsgate trip. Maybe it should wait until August, so we'll see. But anyway, know that one will be coming to a theater called You soon, as long as you spend time here in the theater called StarryTelling. See you next week. Thanks everyone for participating and steering the ship into really fun space.